Welcome. Thanks for joining today. Today we're going to talk about some site selection principles and how to find the blue ocean markets and avoid the red oceans. I wanted to call it the bloodbaths, but they didn't like that for a title. So again, my name is Ryan Essenburg with Tommy's Express Car Wash. Just some copyright information about some of the trademarks and licenses that I'm going to talk about today. And also, this is not an offer for a franchise. Franchise offers have to be documented in legal registrations in your states. So yes, President and co-founder of Tommy's Express Car Wash, and why I'm sharing with you today is some of the history of two facilities, some of our corporate stores you may be aware of. On the top right corner is our gas wash C-store facility in Holland, Michigan. I'll reference a little bit today, and where we washed 1 million cars in the first 806 days. And currently washing over 500,000 cars per year in a single 130-foot tunnel, and a record pace of 224 cars per hour, consistently performing at 200 cars per hour, and also achieved 3,000 cars in a single day. The other facility you may be aware of or heard about is our Express model in the lower right corner, where we washed 195,000 cars in the first 12 months and 300,000 cars annually right now trending. So a little bit of background on how we got here and what brings us here today. In 1969, my grandfather and my father started washing cars. And over the years, we built a handful of corporate stores, but we've also become more passionate about helping other people replicate our successes and building car washes for other people. In the last couple years, I've done this seminar. I've been speaking for probably 10 years, but a couple of the past seminars I'll talk about. In 2015, we talked about how we did it, and what we did was attention to detail and the fine details of how to build the ultimate express car wash. And we did that with this facility I talked about called, I'll reference as the Waverly location in Holland, Michigan. In 2016, I shared with you the fundamentals of express car wash success: branding, processing, critical density, performing a clean, shiny, dry vehicle, marketing, how to use people in the right places, smart design, the right location, and business systems. We'll talk about some of those again today. And last year we talked about disruptive car washing and the things that are disrupting the markets: belts, brands, and buildings, and how they've changed the game, as well as the millennial culture and how we need to adapt to the millennial culture. And this year we're going to teach you how to dominate markets, tapping into blue oceans, playing offensive and defensive, avoiding red oceans and high-risk markets, and looking at the underserved markets, which are truly out there everywhere. You just have to go hunt them out. And also understanding the upside potential of this business. So I'm going to start with the basics today. For those of you, real quick, show of hands, who owns a car wash now and who's just looking to get into the business? Who owns a car wash today? Okay, and how many of you are looking to get in the business for the first time? Okay, about 60-40. Okay, wonderful. So some physical traits of sites you're looking for when you're talking about site selection. We look for about 3/4 to about just over 1 acre. Ideal dimensions around 160 by 260, usable. Usable is important because you may have easements, you may have setbacks that restrict that. So we need that usable space. On the corner or near the corner, a rectangle works best. In the middle of a retail center, and then what we call pad ready. Having a site that's ready to build on, utilities are in place. This is an out parcel staged for something to go on versus sites that are not pad ready. You got to do a lot of work to get to. What should you pay for land? Typically, rule of thumb, we look at about $1 million an acre for a good site today in most markets. Obviously, that varies by market, but that's pretty much the average. Anywhere from $600,000 to $1.6 million, depending on the size of the parcel. Always try to be early into the market, not late in. When you come in late, you got everything built out. It's harder to find a site, and everything's usually more expensive, so best to be early. A great quote I once heard: I never paid too much for land, but the sites I didn't pay enough for cost me a fortune. So these are kind of my personal top 10 variables of what we look for in a location. The first thing, and these may not be the gospel, but these are my personal preferences. Number one, I look and ask for who's the neighbors. I want to know that we've got neighbors and anchor stores nearby. Usually somebody who's smarter than me and somebody who's got more money at risk has already done the research for us. So we're looking for big boxes and having a high quality neighbor. Number two, a 3-mile population. I like to look at the 3-mile first, because that's really what we're going to say is our core draw area. If you're in a great retail area and it's very built out with retail, your 1-mile population may actually be somewhat lower because it's in a good retail area. So I like to look at the 3 mile. We look at traffic counts, okay? Traffic counts aren't the ultimate, but it is important that basically we're saying this is convenient on people's path. Visibility. Visibility is very important on my list. I like to be able to see the car wash easy, never hidden behind anything else. Ease of execution. So I want to look at, is this site easy to do? Or are we going to be fumbling through the city for a year with approvals and regulations and things that are going to be stumbling blocks? Or we got to move a power line, or we got to fight this neighbor. So we want to have easy execution. We look at tunnel car wash competition. We'll talk more in a minute on. Are there any others competing for the site? If the site's been available for 10 years with a sign on it and you're not bidding against anybody, it's a good chance it's probably not a good location. If you're going after the site, it just became available and you got Chick-fil-A and McDonald's fighting you in a bidding war, that's probably a good location. We look at the land price. Everybody, of course, we want to look at price. The light bulb goes off, yeah, we got to get the good deal on the site. Well, what I'm saying is really the opposite. We want to look at price. If it's very true that isn't price a direct correlation to quality. It's a linear graph. If you say it's cheap, it's probably because it's not very good. And if it's very expensive, it's probably because it's good. So we're always looking for good value, but essentially price can be an indicator on how good a location is. Then we'll look at maybe a 1 mile population. And lastly, I look for average income, and we look for generally not extreme outliers, kind of like middle America. I've seen nearly every site selection rule broken by great operations. And so really all this stuff can be trumped with a good operation. I've seen almost everything on that list broken and not actually happen, and a site still be successful. Another thing is I always trust the local person's opinion more than my own. There's sites in our city that somebody out from an outside might think it's a good site, but yet we live there. We know that's an awful area. That's a dying area. That area is changing. It's hard to get in and out of that area. I will trump all these items with a local person's opinion who says this is a good site or this is a bad site. They know it. They live there. Some traits of weak sites. A weak site would have no other retail nearby, less than 5,000 population in a 1 mile, busy roads but with limited rooftops, divided highway, behind anything, less than $400,000 for the land, typically would be a sign it's probably not a very good site. Visual barriers such as extreme elevation changes, power lines, things like that can be a separation or setbacks. And ultra extremes, income, traffic, things like that. Sometimes too busy is hard to get in and out. Sometimes obviously too low on traffic. Incomes low and high can kind of change the game. And then look for missing population. If the site's near an airport, you got to look at that and say, well, about half the homes aren't here that would normally be here. Or an oceanfront lot, you draw a circle around it and you got half of the population missing. Some traits of a strong site. By everyone else, $1 million per acre, easy in, easy out. 10,000 people in a 1 mile, 30,000 people in 3 miles. Daytime population, about a 50,000 median income. We love parallel to the road with a direct curb cut. 20,000 cars per day minimum, and less than 45 miles per hour. And then low profile, I'll show you here in a second. I believe invest time and energy in finding untapped markets while being creative. This is what I mean by low profile. This is one of our corporate stores. It's parallel to the road. It's a gas wash C-store model. And as you can see, decel lane, quick in, you jump off the street there. It's slow traffic. It's near a traffic light. You go in, you get in line, you wash your car, you're out in 3 minutes. And that is really easy, no anxiety of entry, I call it. This is not low profile. This, on the right-hand side there, you see a car wash, and this is on a divided highway, faster traffic. You have to pull in here, go into the Burger King, cut through to get over to the car wash. So you can see the difference in setbacks and how far this off from the road. The Burger King there is probably not as successful either because of that, what I'd call a non-low profile entry to the wash. And that's that anxiety of getting in and getting out. One of the theories I teach on a lot, I love to talk about, is critical density, I call it. And because of critical density, I truly believe the best of car washing is yet to come. So I'm going to give you a little background on our hometown. This is Holland, Michigan, where we're born and raised and where our corporate stores are. It's got about a $55,000 median income and about 124,000 people in a 10-mile radius. These are 3 locations that we've owned and operated for many years. on all the prime corners around town. And in 2014, with these 3 locations, we washed 532,000 cars. That year, we opened a new store, a 4th location, intended to future replace the location near it. They're less than a mile apart. When we added that 4th location, understand, these 3 sites and 4 sites are all 130-foot plus tunnels, big, full-scale, high-processing car washes. When we opened that 4th location in 2015, we increased our citywide car count to 855,000 cars. Same population, same traffic, but by adding that new location, we raised the bar, a net increase of 323,000. Now also, these 4 sites fall within a 2-mile radius circle of each other. This is what we call clustering sites together. More importantly, from 2014 to 2015 to 2016, these are car counts, and I see an increase in 1 year of 60%, and more importantly, an increase of $2.8 million in revenue from 2014 to 2016, or 78% increase for a total of $6.4 million in revenue citywide by adding a new location. So the theory of critical density basically that says sites contribute to each other, not necessarily compete with each other or take away. By clustering sites, you can make more money and wash more cars. Quick Trip really taught us this model and how to beat critical mass, going into a market. When you go in, you got to go in and know how many stores you need to own and dominate the market. I also have a belief of kind of building near yourself before someone else does. When I was a kid, I asked my dad one day, we always had a gas station directly across the street from one of our gas stations. And I remember asking my dad saying, well, that gas station's there. They must be making or they must be making money in a successful gas station. Why don't we own that one too? In some cases, if it's going to be profitable, might as well own it. Each site becomes a billboard for your brand and also additional place to redeem club memberships. It increases the value. It's still $20 a month unlimited, but they can redeem it in more locations. It also helps grow your infrastructure and reduce overhead by having sites nearby each other. You can then have one maintenance person managing sites. Your accountant can do the accounting for multiple sites, and you gain a lot of economies of scale. Also, I believe this principle doesn't have much legs in the food business because people like variety in food. You know, you eat somewhere and it's really not about having a bunch of them in one spot other than maybe McDonald's where it's just convenient. But in our business, it's not a variety business. It's a loyalty program. You sign up for a membership and you want places to redeem it at. So it's more valuable to the car wash industry. And when the tide rises, all ships are lifted. And what we believe there, when we built that 4th location, I'd say we created new believers. And the new believers backfed into the other locations and became raving fan customers. Now apply this to your market. These 4 stores are in the same mailing address, and it equates to 2 stores per zip code. Think about that in your own terms. In Holland, last year we washed over 1 million cars between the 4 locations, a 10-mile draw area being about 95,000 population of drivers, driving age population, which equates to 10.8 times the driving age population of how many cars we washed. Another footnote is that equates to 1 store for every 23,750 driving age population. Think about that. This isn't the only high bar. We've built several locations that have achieved high multiples of 8 to 10x the population, especially in mid-sized markets. The job now is to look at every market's missed potential. Many small markets are untapped, and there's many more of them. Take, for example, Western Florida. We're now adding 25 Tommy's Express locations. We found a market we believe to have been washing only about 1x the population, and we can take advantage of the 9x upside. And we're putting car washes every 2 miles up the coast to leverage that opportunity. Modern culture today demands easy, quick in and quick out experiences. By decentralizing sites, you're able to get more quick hits in neighborhoods. So what that means is instead of investing in a big site in one spot and trying to make your customers drive a long distance to get to it, by having little, maybe smaller sites, or to us, or 130-foot tunnels, but being more convenient in the neighborhoods, 1 per 23,000 people, you're able to get people to come in more often and spend more money because of the convenience. The value of the club membership increases, more locations to redeem. And lastly, a principle that I believe holds true for any product or service is that availability increases demand, or increases volume, however you want to say it. Think about that. Availability increases demand. If I had, for example, it's early in the morning, if we had some Bloody Marys up here on the front stage and I said, hey, these are $10 a piece, they're ready, available, I'd probably get a few of you to take me up on that, we'd make some money. So it's the same in any product or service. Availability, having something here, you're going to take it and go for it and spend the money. I want to talk for a minute about competition. Site creativity avoids the bloodbath. I believe there's three main types of competitors. On the left, you'll see what I call existing competitors. These are existing car washes that as we are all growing or as new investors are coming into the business, we're potentially competing against. On the left is what we say existing operators, but have kind of killed the golden goose. These are car washes that continue investing in the past rather than upgrading to the future, or upgrading the past versus investing in the future and renovating really the new business, kind of like McDonald's has done, tear down, fully renovate. We call it kind of killed the golden goose. Old car washes, non-renovated. I put those in the green because those are the easiest to compete with if you had to go against competition. On the right, you'll see existing operators that we kind of call wealth without direction, maybe deep pockets, but maybe poorly executed. Not really good operations, but the money to keep growing and continuing. And we sometimes call investment stupidity, where you just keep dumping money into it, but it's really not a great operation. So those are yellow because they're dangerous, because somebody with deep pockets and a lot of money can go rogue and be competitive, which again is not really necessary. And then the red in the center is what I call a great operator and a new business model. That's the area you certainly want to avoid if you feel like you have to go up against competition. In a competitive environment, obviously we play to win, but also in a market where there's McDonald's, or you one-up it to a Chick-fil-A, or you say it's hot dog stands, we're going to build McDonald's. How do you one-up the competition if you have to compete? Play to win, but beware. Debt-free veterans always have an advantage, okay? A wash that's been open for 10 years is likely paid off, and they're not making a bank payment anymore. And now you're going up against somebody, if you're financing, who has a significant edge on you by not having a debt payment. Competitors almost always get better as soon as they're challenged. The day you put a sign in the ground and there's a guy down the street, the guy's going to step up his game, probably drop his price. So it's not always as it seems the day you go into it and what you're going to see down the road from that competitor. There's wide open markets everywhere, so competition is often unnecessary. Dividing a market in half does no good. It simply creates two nonprofits, and essentially screwing someone else doesn't help yourself. You just wind up with a mediocre site at the end of the day. Also, the owner of the existing club members holds the cards. This is a loyalty game today, and whoever has the club members, it's very difficult to crack. If you don't purchase the best locations, somebody else probably will. Very dangerous in trying to go with a cheap location. But most importantly, I believe product equals power. Product is what gives you the trump card over any competition. For you existing operators in the room, majority of you, about 60% or so, competition makes you sharpen your skills. So why don't we sharpen our skills before we have a competitor? Stand out from the crowd, differentiate. Usually it's not very hard. Set yourself apart. Create presence, color, tree trimming, things like that. Motion, one up and add flair. There's no need or rarely a need to drop your price. People will pay for excellence, but we all need to work on stepping up our game. Leap into new technologies and ideas sooner. This is kind of a put yourself in the competitor's perspective. If you own an existing car wash today, you have to ask yourself these questions. Why would a competitor want to come into my market? They're saying, and the people I talk to weekly who want to get into the business, they're saying there's opportunity here, number one. Number two, I have a better mousetrap that can better serve the market's needs. And number three, usually they're going to say the current provider lacks blank. And so think about that in a defensive manner. What does your site lack that somebody might want to come in and deliver on? Maybe it's free vacuums. Maybe it's speed. Maybe the car wash existing is slow. Maybe it's Unlimited Club is not even a debate today. Unlimited Club's necessity. If you don't have it, it's a thing that somebody might come in and say, hey, they're missing the boat here. I'll come in and deliver Unlimited Club. Think about all that. What does a current provider lack today? All right, we ask that question all the time. A little frequently asked questions on competition. Who is your competition? Today, we count conveyorized tunnels. We don't count in-bays and self-serves. We don't look at them. We don't check their volume. We don't even pay attention to them. They're not competitors to a tunnel car wash. Judging another tunnel competitor, we ask, what's their potential? Do they have the ability to grow and expand? If they are landlocked and it's a 50-foot tunnel, they're not going to ever be able to wash a lot of cars. If it's a 50-foot tunnel and it's not landlocked and there's room to expand it, you come and build, they might be able to get better, raise the bar, expand, and wash more cars. It also depends on distance from another tunnel. What is the right answer? Everybody asks that all the time. We prefer to not ever be closer than 2 miles from another tunnel car wash. I think more importantly, we look at what's the population between us and the other guy, okay? Because 2 miles might mean a lot of things. In some markets, 2 miles is 200,000 people apart from each other. So look at the population. Some site development strategies. Again, I'll repeat the theme of this is that creativity reaps rewards. Some strategies to utilize. We've all heard the phrase location, 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 right? Very true. But I also want to warn you against thinking location, location, location is everything. So I'll share with you a little story. This is a picture of a restaurant business in our hometown. This is really a B- location. It's not a great location. It was a Ruby Tuesdays restaurant. It was open for a couple of years and it closed shortly after, was empty for a while, and it was really a failure and it wasn't a very good location in the first place. However, Buffalo Wild Wings came in, renovated it, overhauled, brand new, and now it's a rockin' Buffalo Wild Wings. So I want to tell you something very important, above and beyond location. Product is greater than location. You can build an in-bay automatic on a prime corner in a beautiful downtown area with incredible demographics, and you're never going to wash 200 cars an hour. Okay, so product is greater than location. Site layouts. We call this kind of a locked box layout. This is our standard format. This is how we typically lay out the four corners of an intersection. And also this is parallel and perpendicular to the road. And then seventh layout, really there's only about 7 options, layout on a service drive. So we call this a locked box. We don't modify the pay stations or the vacuums in the way they integrate to the facility. Also important, we go find a site to fit the model, not a model for the site. So if you see, hey, I have a piece of land, let's design a car wash, we do exactly the opposite. Here's the model, we go find a site to fit the model. No obstructions to the point of sale lanes. Point of sale always visible from the entrance or from the road where you're coming in. And we believe there's one proper layout for every site. It's not typically a debate or discussion. It's you hand us the property and we say, here's how it lays out. Poor site layout prevents most car washes from reaching their true potential. We always like parallel to the road when possible, more visible and certainly more valuable at the end. Understand a little bit about civil engineering. When you're selecting sites and you're looking for locations and how you're going to design that location, the civil engineer plays a key part in it. First of all, they don't typically know car washing. There's a lot of things that we do that are different than a traditional building. The car wash is a machine that takes cars in and one end and spits them out the other. And the way the site interacts with that process is extremely different than a normal building. The civil engineer can make or break the smoothness of the location and how it operates. We avoid mazes with the layout. You need to have setbacks and easements from the survey to fully understand how we are going to lay it out. We can't just take the square. We got to know where the curb cuts are and where the setbacks are. Slopes are very critical in the way the car flows through the tunnel. Downhill in is the exact opposite of what a civil engineer is going to draw, because typically they draw everything to have water run away from the building. So if it's not monitored and managed and supervised, they will do exactly the opposite of what you want. We have a phrase we call the Tommy box, and what this means is that the outside, typically a civil engineer does the outside of the building, an architect does the building itself. Well, we have more important things outside the building. Sidewalks, these slopes coming in, the pay station lanes, they're all unique to car washing, and we need to coordinate and interact with those with the civil engineer. So we call that the Tommy box, meaning it's a larger box than the building itself that we have to control. A couple other strategies for site selection: hunt for retailers that are going out. Our next location's a Perkins restaurant that's closed. We picked up one of them, Chick-fil-A picked up another, one of them will tear it down and build a new location there. Also, high barriers to entry that are usually frustrating and painful. Remember that they also keep competitors out. So high barriers to entry, more pain, more gain, easy come, easy go, and sometimes that's a benefit in the long run. Leverage in-bay conversions. In-bay conversions have the opportunity to take an in-bay and increase the throughput to 40 cars an hour by making it into a tunnel. If you're in an area where you just can't find 1 acre, maybe there is an in-bay that's on a good site and can be converted to a tunnel car wash. We can justify and we deserve the best A locations. And that's a mentality that's not always been right in the car wash industry, but we absolutely deserve the best. We believe we can generate a higher dollar per square foot than most any other retail, but yet our mindset always puts us a little bit further down the street than the Walgreens and the CVS. One of our highest volume stores today was a car wash we tore down. So think about that too. These old car washes that haven't been renovated, they're already zoned, ready to roll, and you can go tear down and rebuild. Also, a technological leap we talked about last year. Advancements in technology like belt conveyor systems and high processing ability have quickly obsoleted old car washes because you leap forward in technology and then all of a sudden things kind of quickly depreciate. So these car washes, again, that are kind of pre-1980s are opportunities, and that's exactly what we did with our last store. McDonald's kind of taught us the lesson of all of us, right, that, hey, this thing's getting depreciated and it's not effective anymore. New technologies obsoleted it. Tear it down and start over. So we bought a car wash, we tore it down. Funny thing, it actually wasn't even zoned for a car wash, so we still had to rezone it. But we also, at the same time, kind of eliminate a competitor, eliminate a car wash. And then the other thing we found is there really wasn't much competition around the area because there was always a car wash there. So there really wasn't any additional competitors when we went in and tore it down. This site was closed when we bought it. It probably washed about 20,000 cars a year, I would guess, the year before it closed. We renovated it, built a brand new Tommy's Express, and then now doing 300,000 plus cars per year on the same exact spot, almost the same layout and format, shiny brand new. Think about amortization when you're justifying land cost. Okay, this is a long-term game. One car per hour equals $500,000 in additional profit over 20 years. So if you've got to pay a little extra for the better site, it's absolutely worth it in the long term. Not to mention, if you don't, somebody will outplay you and buy the right site. A more expensive site, I believe, will actually produce a higher return on investment. Sure, it costs more, but the site's going to be more successful and make more money, so it's going to have a bigger return on investment. Buying the bad site is probably going to cost you a wash that's not going to perform well, and you'll have a lower return on investment. Also, lease versus purchase is something that gets talked about often. You know, we've always kind of liked to own the land. Today, you see most of the retail rollouts leasing property. A couple of reasons it makes sense. A lot of time, the best sites are lease only. So if you're getting on the best site and that allows you, and you got to do a lease because it's a great site, you got to look at that and say, how much more money are we going to make? Often, if you think about the numbers, owning building and equipment assets in the cash register, we call it, and owning the land with it is going to give you X return on investment. But in theory, if you owned 2 of the cash registers and not the land, you'll produce a higher return on investment. Typically, the land settles for a lower return, which is why these chains that are publicly traded typically are going to lease their land, they're cash flowing, and they're rolling that money into new stores. The important thing there is rolling the money into new stores, not taking the cash flow, knowing that you're going to probably lose that site in 30 years. But another thing is, in 30 years, is that site even where you want to be? A lot of times we look at some of our old stores and go, wow, we kind of wish we didn't have that one anymore. It's in an old area. It's a dilapidated area. The market's moved. The new retail in 30 years is going to be in a different spot, so you can be more agile. The one variable here is that we typically are investing a little bit more money in the building and the equipment on top of the land than a lot of the retailers, okay? So, some helpful tips. Understanding site improvements required before getting in too deep, all right? We had to redo an intersection in front of our store. It was $120,000 or so to redo the intersection to get the approval. We have a client right now who's in for even more than that. The city's saying this and this and this, and several $100,000 in development work that you're getting forced to do for the city if you want to get the approval. You got to know that kind of stuff going in. Also, tap fees. Water tap fees range from $2,000 to $100,000. Depends on the area. Those are the things you want to know before you go into closing. Entitlements requirements. Is it zoning, or is it getting the approvals with the city? That can be a 1-month process, or it can be a 1 year or more process. You got to know that in advance. Sites is really a numbers game, okay? I say it's 10 to 1. You got to have 10 sites in the hopper, and out of that, you might get approved a contract on maybe 5 of them. And out of the 5 of them you got under contract, you go in and you try to get approvals with the city, and you might get 1 or 2. So you got to have a lot of sites in the hopper to get a little. Avoid the inside of a curve. You know, when you're going around a corner, people are paying attention to the road and the steering wheel, or they're looking ahead at something at the end of the curve, not the inside of the curve. Just a fundamental basic there. Another thing, we require site approval at Tommy's Express, so owning land now can sometimes be a disadvantage because we might not approve it and say, no, you have to go get another site that meets the criteria. So a lot of times you want to get franchise rights approved first and then go out and find the location. For our international friends in the room, you are all blessed to have an even greater blue ocean opportunity. These are common cars in some international markets, and the failure to provide professional car washing runs rampant. These are conditions in Dubai, in Finland, and I've seen it in virtually every other country. The lower left corner, 3 weeks ago in Dubai, Elias and I wrote Tommy on the hood of his car on the lower left corner, one day after it was washed. Okay, so these markets have really failed to provide, the cities and the countries have failed to provide express car washing service. Here's a couple reasons why. It's a true blue ocean market. Most of the international markets, especially around Europe and whatnot, are in-bay automatic markets. Customers are frustrated, of course, with having to wash their car in 45 minutes to an hour. But the problem is that it's kind of a chicken or the egg issue. There's really not a great success story model in most other countries. So somebody has to be the first person to risk the investment, to be building the model, and then it can be replicated from there. But at this point, few other countries have successful tunnel car wash models. A lot of other countries also lack systems and process operational expertise, even worse than the United States does. A low labor cost in many countries prevents people from investing in automation and products to be able to wash more cars. So low labor skews it, and they say, well, we can just wash cars by hand and it doesn't cost much money here, but they're never going to be able to wash 200 cars an hour. They're never going to be able to properly serve for the market. But the difference between buying equipment automation versus the labor makes it not as good of a value proposition as it is here in the US to start putting in more automation. 45 minutes to an hour is very common in these international markets. They're challenged by high cost of land typically and often lease-only sites. Many countries perceive car washing as an infrequent automotive service. In Finland, they joke that they wash their car when they change their tires. Okay, local governments direct car washes off the main streets and into the outskirts. They go here to go get an oil change. You go out of town to get, new tires, and they kind of car washing. That's an automotive service. Put that out of town. We know this business doesn't work out of town. It's a demand, convenience business. We need to be on the 50-yard line on the main streets. Space in developing countries is often of the essence. Often the best approach in these countries is to go with institutional car washing or petrol stations, auto dealerships. That way the land is typically more available and maybe already approved for building a car wash. Also, the infrequency of washing leads to more issues where the cars are so dirty, they're harder to wash and they take longer to wash. So we're not able to wash 200 cars an hour like we can when we have 50-60% club members and we wash the car lightly. In international markets, you see here, this in-bay automatic is set to run a 15-minute cycle because the cars are so filthy, so they're washing 4 cars per hour in Finland, okay? So we designed what we call the world model to serve this marketplace. Allows us to go on smaller sites and enlarge the pot of site options available. This model is perfect alternative to an in-bay or rollover car wash. It's an entirely new business model, really built on a club-only concept. So they download our app, they join the club when they get on site. They can also wash pay-as-you-go through our app, but they're typically better trained customers because they're members. They pull in through a 50-foot tunnel and we can wash 50 cars an hour. By the way, our in-bay conversion systems we do today, where we take out an in-bay, we put in a tunnel, we've been able, with a very similar package to the world model here, wash over 1,000 cars a day unattended. So this is happening, okay? And this model will be the future in the international markets. Another tool we designed for you to find blue ocean markets is a square model. I mentioned the first slide, the rectangular sites is typically what we're going for, sometimes a little awkward shape. So what we did was we designed a short double tunnel. This is called the Tommy's Express TT2. It's about 190 foot by 190 foot lot, and it's 90 feet long and can process 200 cars per hour. So the same amount of processing, but on a square piece. We believe that's designed really, we came after bank lots. Banks are certainly closing branches like crazy. That's going to continue. And these are prime corners and are all square shaped. So we designed that particularly for bank lots. A couple tools for you. If you want to take out your phone, you can download the app called Tommy Tools. I would suggest anybody who's looking to grow their business, download this app. One of the things on there we have is an instant site layout tool called Car Wash Placer on the left there. And you can Click on that, it'll locate where you're at, and you can pick one of the site layout options, Express or Flex Mile or Gas Wash C-Store, drop it on the site, it automatically scales it properly. You can spin it around, lock it, save it, and text it to a friend, a banker, investor, and you've got a site plan done in 30 seconds. In addition, there's also tools on here for building and developing a car wash. This is a site evaluation tool we developed. We kind of got sick of bickering over sites, if it's good or not good, and having different emotional opinions, and so we tried to quantify it. So, there's certainly no guarantees or no way to ensure that it's always true all the time, but what we did is we studied some of the best car washes in the country. We took some of their stats of population and things like that, and we created a mathematical formula behind the scenes here. And you can go through all these variables and select the site stats, and it will produce for you. You fill those out as many as you can. You don't have to do all of them, and it will produce for you a site score. This is most effective really when you're comparing two sites against each other. If you're not really sure which one you like and you got two and you could go with either one of them, maybe this adds a second opinion for you to dump it in and see sort of how we would evaluate it. And different things are weighted differently based on our beliefs. Another resource for you is what we call the site opportunities. Throughout the year, we try to document sites that are available from brokers. These are pre-reviewed, but they're not pre-approved. But you can go on there, it's tommycarwash.com/sites, and maybe see some listings of sites. A couple other apps you should all download. The LoopNet Real Estate app is great for finding sites available. An app called Demographics with an X, the blue one on the right there, is an instant demographics anywhere in the country. In the lower left corner is an app called Land Glide, and it will tell you who owns title to any property anywhere in the country typically. Another recommendation I have that's underestimated is the importance of leveraging a great broker. The broker is getting paid to get this site for you. So find somebody who's going to work hard for you and go to town and get the best sites, give them the criteria, and let them work for you and deliver sites. So the secret formula, if there is one, what I believe are these key elements that really make the ultimate site selection. Number one, big box outlots, preferably grocery stores. These are great frequency tie-ins, the soccer moms, and also having business as an anchor store nearby. Number two, near gas stations. Gas stations are also a great frequency variable. People are coming in weekly. They get gas and a wash together. Number three, one of the most important, is having the perfect product. Again, I've many in Michigan, big boxes with gas stations, but with an in-bay automatic. They're never going to wash 200,000 cars a year or 300,000 cars a year because it's the wrong product. And number four, we like to look today at mid-sized markets, 20,000 to 80,000 people. These are the people who are the most underserved in the country and really in a 5-mile radius. I gave you some predictions last year. These are this year's predictions. Number one, subscribe to a system or be run over. What I mean by that is the large chains in the country are growing, and they're growing rapidly. So trying to go alone today is not a safe idea as the market's getting spread quickly with large chains. Small markets being rolled out. Small markets, I'll keep talking about, are a great opportunity. Even down to 10,000 to 40,000 people, we don't get scared of those numbers. Like I said earlier, we're operating one site for 23,000 people. If it's 10,000, we shrink the model a little bit, shorter tunnel. We have what we call a mini model, lower the investment a hair. Club members are hard to crack. Once the basis is built, loyalty sticks. So finding a blue ocean area is more important than ever. 5,000 population markets, we believe, will be the next big blue ocean to develop with the world model. A little small to build a full tunnel, but the world model we designed for international markets can be leveraged in these small towns of 5,000 people. I was in a city one time with my wife. We were down in Texas, and we were driving down the street in a city of 5,000 people, and there's 3 in-bay automatics in this city on the same side of the street. I scratched my head and said, okay, this is kind of silly here. Why don't we have one short tunnel could do all of this, okay? 1980s car washes that have not been renovated will be eliminated. Unless they renovate, get freshened up to new technology, it's not sustainable to keep investing in the past. In-bay conversions with oil companies are happening and are going to start growing like crazy. We have several oil companies already who are leveraging this opportunity because they see the income potential in the tunnel car wash versus the rollover car wash. A lot of rollover in-bays kind of regret they did it in the first place, and it's not an interesting thing, but the bigger oil companies are starting to see this production on their income statements. We even have some oil companies today that are building sites independent of their gas stations and just going out and building express car washes. Rapid closures of in-bay and rollover car washes, we're already seeing that. That's been a trend for the last 5 years, but it will continue. Bank branches closing, really, who goes to the bank anymore? You deposit checks on your phone, you take money out of an ATM. It's a rare chance today to go into a bank branch. So you're going to see these closures. The fintech industry is the next big disruption. It's online, peer-to-peer lending. It's going to take out most of the bank branches. So the site opportunities now become available in markets on lots where you couldn't necessarily build before, and they're all prime corners. We're also going to see more retail closures because of the Amazon effect. You're seeing them dropping like dominoes right now. Usually I say except food. Food's sustainable, food's going to keep going, but you're going to see a lot of these, the Toys R Us we're all aware of, stores like that going out. Is there hope for the future? Certainly. I've seen several competitors come and go in our marketplace. This is not an easy business. One of our top locations was built by by a competitor. Our second best site today was someone else's car wash we tore down. The low-hanging fruit right now in the industry is to build more sites and serve under and unserved markets. How do we do that? We believe simplify and outsource. Follow a system, stop micromanaging few sites, while the biggest opportunities is to roll out and build new sites faster, taking markets up to 10x. Creativity gets rewarded. By being in this room, you've proven you care about being a leader and a dominator of the industry, so work creatively to avoid the bloodbaths and hunt for blue oceans. A couple seminars this week you could also attend. Eric O'Connor's our head of franchise development, will be speaking tomorrow at 2:30 on the franchise proven formula for success. It's a process every other retail industry uses, and there's a lot of reasons why it makes so much sense in our business, even more so than some other industries. Also, Rob Stamm, our director of marketing, will be speaking Saturday at 10 a.m. on marketing strategy. We're a young, energetic, fun team. On the top right corner, we do an event every year called Tommy Club for our franchisees. This year we went to BMW Performance Driving School. We like to get together, have association, camaraderie with other people in the business. We have a 49-year history available at TommyCarWash.com, and we love car washing. We appreciate you being here today. I am going to turn over to group questions, but I'm going to first answer the ones you guys have submitted. A great question here. In your hometown vicinity to our 4 locations, who are our competitors? So in that marketplace of 120,000 people, we have 4 locations, and we've always, in addition to that, had 3 tunnel wash competitors on top of that. So there was 7 tunnel car washes in that 124,000 people. One of them closed about 3 years ago, has now been torn down. We've got 2 more left. In your world model, it looks like the tunnel does not have staff. So yes, that's a great question. The optimal place I like to see that is next to a gas station. Really the old in-bay automatic model. It's a gas station and a car wash next door. If there's a significant problem, there's labor nearby that can go over and assist, help out, shut the car wash down, whatever needs to happen. Can it be done completely unattended? Absolutely. People are doing it. Like I mentioned, one client of ours has done over 1,000 cars in a day unattended, and it's being done in several different markets. Is it the safest, best thing to do? I don't know. That'll come with training of consumers. The belt conveyor certainly makes it a better experience. The app gives it where we have a membership program, so people are frequent flyers here, right? The first time they be uncertain about it, the second time they come flying in, they're an expert. So I would answer that question by saying it's only going to get better, and in the upcoming years, as it becomes the standard to go through an express car wash, self-loading, by the way, we self-load at all of our car washes and the Tommy's Express car washes. We only put loaders out in the entrance of the wash on super busy days when we want to pack cars tighter and pull them in so we can wash more cars. Probably 60% of the time plus, we're always self-loading. So we've already mastered that. But again, it gets better and better with better trained customers, and that improves. 5-10 years from now, absolutely, people will zip in there and wash their car. It's like going to McDonald's. We all know how to do it. We pull in from the right, we go around the back, stop at the kiosk, go up to the window. We've all done it. But that hasn't fully happened yet in express car washing. Does a world model work for small rural areas? So, that's certainly, we designed it for foreign countries to be kind of a lean and mean alternative to an in-bay, but it's certainly an opportunity in the small markets where we're just hesitant on building tunnels. Today, we kind of believe in-bay automatics are obsolete. In the same amount of space, with a very similar experience, we can wash 40 to 50 cars an hour, maybe a little bit more land. And obviously, when there's more cars going through, there's more risk, okay? So is there more things that are going to go wrong? Cars moving on a conveyor going through a tunnel? Yeah, it's not pulling your car in and parking, but we're washing 50 cars an hour. So naturally, there's going to be more experiences because you're washing a lot more cars. That's a perfect model for 5,000 or less population and even the 10,000 or less. And when you get to 10,000 people, it's underserving the market, and that's where we really step up to a mini 80-foot model. Okay, and we've got a couple more minutes. Another thing, this seminar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube page, youtube.com/TommyWash. You'll be able to pull it up on our website.